The restaurant was dimly lit, the air thick with the low murmur of conversations and clinking cutlery. At a corner table sat a man in his 30s, quiet, dressed simply, sleeves rolled, hair a little unkempt, eyes distant. Across the room, laughter erupted from a group of co-workers celebrating a promotion. Among them sat Clara, sharp, confident, a woman who had learned to hide her loneliness behind sarcasm. When her eyes met the quiet man's, something about his stillness irritated her. He looked detached, like he didn't belong. She smirked and whispered to her friend, "He's the type who orders water and stares at walls, probably one of those lonely single dads." Her friend chuckled, and for a moment, Clara felt powerful until the night turned upside down, and the man she mocked became the reason she was still breathing. The evening began like any other awkward team dinner. Clara, always the center of attention, was trying to drown her exhaustion in banter. The promotion celebration wasn't hers, she'd been passed over again, and bitterness clung to her like perfume. Across the room, the quiet man was helping his little girl cut her food. He didn't talk much, just smiled softly whenever she said something silly. Clara noticed. His clothes weren't expensive, his posture was slightly weary, and there was a sadness in his eyes she couldn't name. It annoyed her that someone could be that calm when she felt like she was falling apart inside. When her coworker joked about the sad single dad corner, Clara played along. "Maybe he's waiting for his ex-wife to show up," she said, smirking. Her laughter came too loud, too forced. The man didn't even look up, he was busy tucking a napkin into his daughter's collar, whispering something that made the little girl giggle. Something twisted in Clara's chest, but she brushed it off. She turned her focus back to her phone, pretending not to notice how the man gently handed his daughter a glass of juice, patient and kind. Then came the sound, a sharp crash, a gasp, a scream. It all happened in seconds. Clara's chair jolted backward, the world tilting as a waiter slipped near her table, sending a tray of wine glasses shattering across the floor. Clara's reflex was to stand, but before she could, something heavier hit. A spark from the open kitchen flared out, catching the tablecloth. Fire bloomed like a nightmare, quick and hungry. Panic spread like a wave. People screamed. Chairs toppled. Someone shouted to call for help. Clara froze. Her mind went blank, body paralyzed as smoke thickened around her. Her co-workers scrambled toward the exit, but the flames blocked her side. She stumbled backward, her heart slamming against her ribs. And then a hand grabbed her arm. It was him. The quiet man she had mocked not 10 minutes ago. His eyes calm, steady, focused. "Stay low," he said, his voice firm but gentle. "Follow me." Before she could speak, he pulled her down, shielding her as he moved toward a clear path between tables. She coughed, eyes watering, but his grip never loosened. He led her past the overturned chairs, past the spreading smoke, his daughter clinging to his other hand. When they reached the back door, he kicked it open, ushering Clara and his little girl out into the cold night air. For a moment, she just stood there, coughing, shaking, watching the flames flicker through the window. The man dropped to one knee beside his daughter, checking her face for burns, his expression pure relief. Clara watched him, speechless. Her voice trembled when she finally said, You saved me." He looked at her then, eyes tired but kind. "Just did what anyone should." "Not everyone would have come back in," she whispered. He gave a faint, rueful smile. "A parent doesn't think twice." The sirens arrived soon after, and chaos filled the street. Clara sat on the curb, a blanket around her shoulders, replaying every moment in her head. She remembered how she'd laughed at him, and now, here he was, comforting his daughter with a patience she couldn't fathom. Later, when the fire was under control, she found him again. His daughter was asleep in his arms, her face nestled against his chest. Clara hesitated before speaking. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "For what I said earlier." He looked up, surprised, then nodded. "It's okay. People say things they don't mean." "No," she said, tears stinging her eyes. "I meant it then. But I shouldn't have." He smiled faintly. "You had a rough day?" She nodded, ashamed. "I've had a rough few years." He didn't ask for details. He just listened, the way people rarely did anymore. She told him about her job, the loneliness, how she kept pretending she was fine. He didn't offer advice, didn't interrupt. When she finished, he said, "You don't have to be loud to be strong." She stared at him, the weight of his words settling in her heart. For the first time in a long while, she felt seen. Truly seen. The next morning, Clara woke up with the scent of smoke still clinging to her hair and an ache in her chest, not from fear, but from something deeper. She found herself standing outside a small, local coffee shop a few blocks from the restaurant ruins. Through the window, she saw him again, sitting by the glass, his daughter drawing with crayons beside him. She walked in quietly, ordered a coffee, and hesitated before approaching. "Hey," she said softly. "Mind if I sit?" He looked up, smiled, and gestured to the seat. Of course. They talked about small things at first, his work as a mechanic, his daughter's love for drawing, her job in marketing. But beneath it all, there was something unspoken and understanding that both carried invisible scars. She learned his name was Ethan, and his daughter was Lily. His wife had passed 2 years ago. He'd been doing his best ever since. As the hours passed, Clara realized how wrong she'd been to judge him, not just him, but anyone who chose quiet over chaos. Ethan's strength wasn't in loud confidence or charm, it was in his quiet patience, his unwavering love for his daughter, his ability to stay gentle in a world that wasn't. When they said goodbye, Ethan smiled and said, "Take care, Clara." But as she walked away, Lily waved and said, "Come have pancakes next time." Clara laughed, a real, soft laugh she hadn't felt in months. That night, she couldn't stop thinking about how one moment of arrogance had turned into something life-changing. How sometimes, the people we underestimate carry the quietest kind of courage. And so, a week later, she found herself back at the same coffee shop, carrying a small bag of crayons for Lily. Ethan looked up, surprise flickering into warmth. "You came back," he said. She smiled. "I owed someone breakfast, and an apology worth repeating." He chuckled. "You already said sorry." "I know," she said, eyes soft. "But sometimes words mean more the second time when you really mean them." He nodded. The world outside was still loud, still harsh, but in that quiet corner, two people, once strangers, found something like peace. And as Clara watched him pour syrup for Lily, she thought to herself, maybe quiet isn't so bad after all, because sometimes, the ones we mock for being quiet, are the ones who remind us how to truly listen and how to live.